Hey, what's up everybody? Bilaval here, tuning in live from GTC 2024. Today, I have the distinct privilege of sitting down, or rather standing with the VP of XR and Spatial Computing, David Chu. His teams are putting together technologies that blend the physical and digital, and I can't wait for you to dive into this conversation. David, obviously I've been following your work from near and afar for a while now, so I'm excited to be here speaking with you today. To kick things off, can you tell us a little bit about your background and your current role at Nvidia?
Sure. Hey, Bilaval, it's a pleasure to meet you here.
Of course.
At GTC. I've been following your work as well, and you do a great service for the community. Everybody's learning a ton from the type of stuff that you do, so I really appreciate it. As for myself, I lead the spatial computing and XR efforts at Nvidia, and I've been dabbling in spatial computing for quite some time, ever since the first Oculus Rift developer kit. And it's been a blast ever since. I can't imagine having more fun anywhere else. Even before that, my background is really just getting excited about this stuff at a super early age. Like a vision of some cool laser holography, right? Super early on at a middle school science fair. So I've been in this for a long time, I feel.
And your dreams are finally coming true.
Yeah, totally. Totally. No, this is a great, really, really fun time to be in the industry because, at Nvidia, we love accelerated computing. We do it reasonably well. We've been doing it for a long time. And just to have that opportunity to bridge that to spatial computing, right? With accelerated computing, we say, it's because general purpose computing won't kind of do the trick anymore, right? Well, we know that's definitely true for spatial and XR, things that you need to wear on the body. So it's totally one of these cases where we've got the right ingredients, right, to make something really compelling nowadays.
Totally, all the primitives that are coming together. But you brought up a term, spatial computing, and you're the VP of XR. So talk to me about spatial computing. Is it old wine in a new bottle? In other words, is it AR, VR rebranded? Or is it perhaps a better encapsulation of the shift in computing that we're currently undergoing, perhaps even a sign of what's to come?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think about it this way. VR is fantastic for letting you visit places that you would never be able to go to yourself, right? These magical destinations, right? Whether that's the inside of a plant cell or the moonscape of a distant planet, right? These places are like phenomenal, and or even a courtside Warriors game, right? You can never go to those places. I've never been to one on my own, right? So I think these are fantastic things that VR is great for. AR, right? When we talk about like Mark Weiser's original vision of what it meant to have computing blend seamlessly into the background, to be really an assistant to your everyday life. To really let you appreciate all the rich fidelity of the physical world in front of you, but yet still have a little cognitive assistance along the way, right? That's what AR is great at. And I think spatial computing extends this idea really in a really nice way. It tells you about, hey, there's some motifs of regular desktop computing that we're familiar with, regular PC, laptop computing that we're familiar with. Hey, Windows, right? Things in space, right? Apps that we know and can be familiar with. So you step into spatial and you kind of have a sense of familiarity, right away. And I think that's really powerful. It helps a nice bridge, a transition from kind of radical, things you know and love to more radical conceptualization of what computing can be. And then I think one other thing that spatial has done in an interesting way, and spatial computing has exercised in an interesting way, it's about folks around us, right? It's about the social interactions as well, right? And we can't forget about that, the physical, real life social interactions. And I think that's just super valuable. And it's really pushing forward the whole state of the art, which is fantastic.
Totally. It turns out the world is in 3D, right? And these interactions are just far more visceral. And to your point, there are certain abstractions that we've gotten used to that are very convenient for us, but don't mirror reality as we experience it every single day. And with spatial computing, to your point, we're going to see these modalities become far more intuitive, dare I say spatial, as these technologies evolve.
Yeah, and I think along with that, part of the beauty of computing, why I got into writing code in the first place is like you can just like create anything, right, with a few lines of code. In the future, it will be, actually even today, it's just with a little voice prompting, right? You can create anything. Well, that sense of freedom, right? It's just, space is freedom, right? And so you just have it all together all at once there. So I think that's a really nice mixing of the two.
All together, all at once. I really like that. It's like the spatial canvas almost encompasses all the canvases that came before it, and yet is something else entirely, and you can almost turn your mind inside out using generative AI. But before we talk about generative AI, NVIDIA's interest in XR spans both on device and in the cloud. Could you share with us the kind of offerings NVIDIA has in the space?
Totally. Yeah, so NVIDIA loves to support the ecosystem wherever the ecosystem is one very important theme throughout all of NVIDIA's types of products, verticals that we work on. And so that's no different from in XR space. So for example, whether you have, with a workstation, you need a high-powered workstation to do something nice on your device, or you want to run all-in-one, right, with a cloud backend, we support that whole gamut. Some of these specific offerings that we have are things like Omniverse. And I can say a few words about Omniverse.
Please.
Omniverse is one of these really fascinating tools where if you want that full fidelity, interoperability, and scalability all together, you kind of get it in one package. And kind of what do those break down and mean? So full fidelity, right? Like, yes, our heritage is a graphics company, right? So yes, we will render amazing looking things, but we will even do that physically accurately, right? So like every ray of light, we will simulate and model in the world, right? And so that just gives you this really high level confidence, especially if you're somebody that works with 3D data naturally and you want to see it in different conditions, in different situations. You just get to see it true to life, right? It's no different than if you had the real thing there. And so that's a really powerful capability. That full fidelity ray trace capability is really powerful. The interoperability with OpenUSD is a fantastic, hey, there's all these digital content creation tools as you're familiar with out there, and sometimes they don't interop, but now there's a path for them to interop with each other. And you can take all your tools and take all your content and move from A to B to C, and it's frictionless. And when you want to see it with that physically accurate capability, you just put it in Omniverse and you get it, right? And that's kind of a really nice way, a low friction way for folks to work with their 3D data. And the last part is scalability, right? Where Omniverse is in the cloud. How many ever GPUs you need, we got your back. And that really helps in the spatial and XR space.
Absolutely. It's funny, Omniverse is almost like we've had these islands of 3D applications for a while where people are creating content, and we haven't really had this one place that it serves as the connective substrate and tissue to bring all these things together, and y'all have really done that with Omniverse. Could you talk a little bit about CloudXR and GDN as well? Sure.
CloudXR and GDN, CloudXR really builds on that. Hey, if you, and this is a product that we've had in the market for a while, and people love it because it serves that function of like plumbing, right? Connecting from A to B, client to server. You want to have an interesting stream of data flowing through, right? Usually rendered content flowing through. I like to say to my team, hey, we're all glorified plumbers, but when we do our work, everybody gets water, Everybody gets water.
I love that.
And that resonates with people because we can do the heavy lift so you can shine in your application, your customers in front of you as a developer, you can go succeed faster. So that's what we do there. In terms of GDN, that's our infrastructure that is based off of GeForce Now. And GeForce Now, as you know, is our global scale cloud gaming offering, right? We took that infrastructure and we repackaged it as GDN. So even if you don't have a traditional 2D game, right, a AAA game, you can use that infrastructure for your rendering needs, right? For your remote rendering needs, which is really very powerful if you think about it, because we put the trust us when we say we put the best GPUs out there, and we put them everywhere at the edge, right? We're in over 130 regions around the world.
Wow.
Right? So when you think about the best GPUs spread all over the place, if you're somebody that needs a little bit of extra juice, right, a little bit extra compute, and who in Spatial and XR doesn't need it sometimes, right?
Take it all. We'll take it all.
Right. There you go. Right. So we can hook you up. Right. So that's that's one of the reasons that makes a lot of sense. And Nvidia just has a lot to offer there. And of course, with other clouds, we can run similar. We can run similar on other clouds as well.
I love that. You know, you've got the capability to bring these high fidelity assets together and deliver it with very low latency to all sorts of devices, including immersive / spatial computing headsets. So speaking of these primitives, the real magic is when you put them all together, right?
Totally.
And I had the opportunity this past Monday to check out this amazing experience you and your teams are working on for the Vision Pro. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, I was so happy to show it to Bill because that was something where we knew we had the ingredients, but it was about, hey, you know, it's like every chef has ingredients at home. But how do you put them in the right recipe, right? The right amounts. And what we lit up there was allowing you, Vision Pro, fantastic device, great display, right? Everybody loves the display. It can show amazing content. We brought to bear some of the beefiest GPUs in our cloud right to that device. Showed you some very interesting content in terms of a car configurator. What did you think about that Nissan Z?
Oh my God. In my opinion, it was like massive CAD assets saturating the Vision Pro displays with immaculate quality streaming and real-time ray tracing. It blew my mind. But then when you flipped on the mixed reality mode and you had the car plopped in space with the Vision Pro pass-through, it is the closest thing I've seen to indistinguishable from reality while the underlying asset was synthetic. It was just mind-blowing. I was going up to the tires, going up to the stitching, and you're like, oh yeah, that stitching, those are triangles right there. And that blew my mind.
Hey, we appreciate that. That's high praise because I know you've seen a lot of stuff, right? And you've seen a lot of great XR spatial stuff. And we're just thrilled that we can delight folks in this kind of way. One of the things that we pride ourselves in is we're lighting up this capability, not for us to build apps, but we work closely with our partners. In this case, Nissan has a partner, Katana, who's already doing this kind of work, visualization of their cars for marketing purposes and other 2D marketing. And so what Nissan gives to Katana is that full res thing which you see in the magazines, right? And then we do it in 3D, right? We help them do it in 3D. And so for them, they're already doing their 2D work. They get a 3D version for free, right? How nice is that? And you can use it in all these kind of car dealership, right? Marketing, designers, right? Even in the early stages in the factory, you can think about all of these scenarios in which the ability to think spatially helps out.
Absolutely. I love the plumbing example too. It's like the partners bring the gold, their assets, their crown jewels, and you've got the plumbing to deliver it ubiquitously at scale to any device. I think that's absolutely magical. I do want to double click on how you envision this technology impacting the way designers and developers create digital content, right? We're so used to working in these two-dimensional screens, and now suddenly if you can view this from an iPad, from a headset, so on and so forth, not just during the creation process, but buyers and purchasers that when they're making a purchase decision on the consumption end too, could you talk a little bit about how you see this changing the market? Yeah.
You know, there's a reason people say, kick the tires, sit in the driver's seat, right?
But I can tell you that NVIDIA's supercomputers are about to impact nearly every aspect of our lives, yours and mine, because they've reached the tipping point where artificial intelligence can be used to improve everything.
Because its physicality is what we're used to, right? Even before speech, we probably had physicality, right? We knew about like space in that way. And it's so embedded in how we operate as humans. You're probably familiar with memory palaces, right? One of the best ways to remember a long list of things. You basically remember it spatially, right? So the ability for us to intuit and reason and think spatially is that's who we are as humans, right? And so if we can bring that to you without shipping, a 2-ton car, right? Without, people are building huge shipping containers as well, like massive structures, large architectural buildings, right? All of these things are being done. And these are all innately 3D things that the 3D data already exists, right? And the question just is, do you want to get even more velocity on your projects, more intuition on how your built projects will turn out?
It's amazing, and you know, there's this dream that people in the 3D creation space have, is like there's one source of truth for these 3D assets. And I think finally, now that like compute is no longer a constraint, you can actually work off the OG CAD file versus some artist decimated model that has to obviously make trade-offs.
That's right. That's right. That's such a great point there. Jensen has a nice line. We are trying to drive the marginal cost of compute to zero. Right? When that happens, like, we will bring to bear more Nissan Zs, right? And I feel that that's a great trajectory. And you know what? Something that's a near-eye display, you need all the compute that you can get. We appreciate the full fidelity of this world, right? Everybody loves just how rich the real world is.
Reality has really good graphics.
Reality has really good graphics, no doubt. And we haven't even touched on, all of our end senses.
Very
right?
true.
And so I'm sure we'll talk about that later
Absolutely.
on in this chat as well.
Actually, that's a perfect segue into the next topic, which is, so we've got these two waves of technology taking place. We've got spatial computing, a la AR, VR, and of course we've got artificial intelligence, both perception AI and generative AI. From your perspective, how do you see the interplay of AR, VR, and AI technologies?
Well, I think it's mixed, and I mean that in the mixed reality sense.
I like
right?
that, yeah.
Because it's just, think about some of the announcements that we made just recently, right? Text to 3D, Edify, text to 3D, right? I think you were able to check out Latte 3D,
yes.
right? A new, even newer iteration of that from our Nvidia research. Creating 3D content has always been challenging,
Very
right?
much so. Yeah.
It's been labor intensive, a labor of love. If we can democratize that for so many people in so many places, and we can start to view it spatially, right? How nice is that? How much freedom do we offer at that point? And so I think that's just one example of an intersection, right? And if we think about all the ways in which we sense the world today, right? Vision being the number one way, but also acoustically, right?
Yeah.
All of the ways that we sense the world today, these are really high bandwidth channels of data, and AI is a great way, generative AI is a great way to think about and process that data. Whether that's, for example, capturing a faithful representation of the lighting in this room, right? Very challenging, actually.
Absolutely.
Very, very, very challenging. But if you could use generative AI to capture a phenomenal HDRI of this room, right? You could light everything well, right? And that's just like a very specific sub-problem that we would tackle in generative AI. But then you start to think about, hey, the texture mesh of this room, the reconstruction into this world, all the nerfs that you could build in space, right? And visualizing them. Again, going back to taking you to places you never thought you could go.
Teleportation.
I think there's just, we have all the right ingredients. The community has all the right ingredients, and we're happy to help them along.
I love it. To your earlier point, we've got this amazing spatial canvas, right? But the metaverse is a rather empty place if it is devoid of content. And now we have the means and the technologies to populate the so-called metaverse.
That's right. Like, and we could just think about, like, what did that unlock once, Roblox enabled that, or what did that unlock once Minecraft enabled that, or what did that unlock once Legos, enabled that, right? These are all ways where space was the predominant mechanism for which you to appreciate the product.
I love that. So related to that, so we've got, again, building on the theme of these converging technologies, we've got perception AI now that allows machines to perceive and understand the world. You talked about 3D capturing the place. We can understand the semantic meaning of the things within it. And now with generative AI, we can create content, we can edit content, and really start populating these spatial canvases, including the real world. How far are we from our own embodied assistant, or AI Jarvis?
Ooh, we'd love to help with that. Jarvis, right? Iron Man has superpowers, but it's not just his suit, right? It's that is the fact that he has that assistant with him, right? That is able to understand, grok the world at line rate and show interesting and useful information, or speak useful information. And I think we're close, because if you look around GTC, you'll see some of the examples of that coming to life. Maxine 3D, the fact that we can convert 2D images into 3D representations, right, dynamically on the fly at line rate. That's one such enabler for us to envision this world. The fact that we have the RAG, LLMs, NeMo, right? We can converse with you in high fidelity for the specific topic that you're interested in, right? I might not know that much about, this thing that I'm viewing in front of me, this space that I'm viewing. In fact, I was at the library the other day, and I honestly did not know anything about this meeting that they were having at the library. I think it was a Tingria language meetup, right? But if I could just have Jarvis help me out with that and just tell me, hey, what's going on with that? I would love, in the few milliseconds that few seconds that I walked across that hall, I would have loved to learn more, right? Be more in tune with the space around me. And I feel like the combination of LLMs, Maxine, capabilities are very close to making that a reality. And yes, we could do all this with phones today. I think those are a great form factor for which to do it with. But hey, I pull out my phone maybe a couple times an hour, right? But that's the difference between 20% accessibility and 100% accessibility.
100%.
Right? And so I think there's just so much we can do on that front.
You're totally right about sort of ambient, always-on computing on your head, right? Like, there are these hidden layers of information that can now be anchored to the world, and yeah, on demand, you can sort of reveal the hidden meaning of anything. I think Jensen mentioned a really good point in one of his keynote slides about like anything to anything, like any kind of content to any kind of content. We've almost got this universal translator, and I think that's going to be very exciting.
In fact, it's more ambitious than the original Envision universal translator, right?
Yeah, totally.
It's not just language to language, right? It's literally anything to anything. Yeah. And again, when you drive that marginal cost of computing to zero, right, the anything mapping suddenly becomes possible. And I think that's the fascinating place about working with technology that we're developing at Nvidia.
I have to ask you, you've obviously been working in AR, VR, and spatial computing for a while now. I feel like there has been this missing ingredient, which is indeed language, and you touched on it very briefly with NeMo and some of the other offerings. It's cool to get rid of the 2DOF mouse and move to 6DOF controllers or touch input, but yeah, to be able to intuitively just say what you mean while having the visual context is exciting. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Voice has always been the most intuitive way to interact with hands-free. Voice has always been that way. And we've seen it time and time again in the sense that we work with medical scenarios, we work with factory scenarios, we work with all sorts of scenarios in which voice, you just have your hands occupied, right? They're doing other things, they're doing work, right? And voice makes a lot of sense in those cases. And the fact that you can speak contextually, right? Hey, show me the information for this. You didn't have to say what this was, it knew what this was probably, right? And it scours the internet, does the vector DB for the right documentation, right? Like, it has all those data sources, and then boom, it just shows you exactly what you need at the right time. I think that's so invaluable.
I love it. Where Omniverse has a similar analogy of connecting all this spatial data that's around. Now with information and language data, we've got very similar capabilities. It's going to be a very exciting future indeed.
Totally.
So we've got language, we've got vision, we've obviously got dimensional understanding and intuitive always-on headsets. Hopefully not always on, though I've seen plenty of people walk around with a Vision Pro. I am not that brave yet, but I know where that is going. With all those pieces together, it feels like we need some way to embody our computing assistant, or in this case, Jarvis, in a spatial fashion that they can talk to us. Is NVIDIA doing anything in that space?
Totally. So we have an offering, Tokkio, that helps developers build their version of Jarvis for their particular setting.
Wow.
And it's a really useful capability, right? We have it deployed in many scenarios. For example, some XR, not XR right now, But scenarios, for example, if you're at a fast service location, right, you want to understand, hey, can I order this? Can I order that? Tokkio can help you out.
Hell, I love that.
And also, the cool thing about this, right, is that we continue to push this frontier because there are so many cross-pollinating use cases for it. For example, in gaming, right, you want to talk to that NPC, that non-playable character, and you want to have that rich conversation, not just like 4 menu items, like yes, no, maybe, leave, right?
Yeah, totally.
You want to have that rich, meaningful interaction, and you can totally have that and start building that with Tokkio. And just think about what it would mean to connect that to XR, right?
Oh, absolutely.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
I think we'll all be waiting with bated breaths to see those examples come to fruition because yes, we've got that canvas now, and now we can embody computing as not just language, but like as this entity that we can interact with in a very interesting way.
Yeah.
And so I think Jarvis nicely exemplifies that vision, and it's so crazy to imagine where it's so close to fruition.
Totally. And we make it more human. We make it more understandable, something that everybody can relate to.
Absolutely. All right, so let's switch gears and talk about compelling applications of immersive tech and artificial intelligence. We saw a bunch of stuff in the XR Zone Tour. There are a couple applications here that I'm personally curious about. The first one, obviously, is immersive 3D capture and perception. What are some interesting applications that you're excited about there?
Yeah, no, there's plenty. Of course, we have the Nissan Z, right? Digital twin through and through. We also work with our partners at Wistron, which is an ODM manufacturer. It makes many products. It happens to also make one of our marquee products, the DGX,
Cool.
which is multiple GPUs in a box for a server SKU.
The supercomputer.
The supercomputer, that's right. One element, I think one layer in the hierarchy of supercomputing. What was cool there was they were, we're doing okay in sales right now, so they were standing up a new factory to make more DGXs. And
just okay on sales?
Just, good. I'm humble, right? We're doing okay. And one thing that is always the case with standing up a new factory is everybody's thinking about how fast, what's the schedule to get the job done, how many people are needed, right? Let's not slip the schedule. And also, what are ways to introduce additional automation in your factory line if you can? To be able to do that effectively, you really need to plan what your factory will look like, not just the original version, the template that you work from, but the actual as-built space that the concrete that gets poured into the ground, right? And to be able to do that after and during your construction project just saves enormous amounts of time, specifically being able to visualize how things are going to be laid out, where things are going to go. The contracting crew, did they make it big enough, right? Were there there's always unforeseen circumstances,
Indeed.
right?
Yeah.
And so how can you relay out things very quickly? And if you didn't have to move 1,000 pieces of actual machinery to do some reconfig there, that's a huge savings, right? And so what we saw through the combination of AR, through headset and through tablet, as well as having it all a digital twin in Omniverse, was that they were able to save more than 50% in terms of productivity to get that factory built speed of light. So that was a really nice embodiment of, if you have a digital twin, we could really help you out spatially.
I love that because it brings all these pieces together, right? You've got one source of truth, the digital twin. You can see it immersively in a headset. You could see it through a pass-through experience on your tablet and be able to, spatially understand the context of the environment that it's being put into. And I also saw in one of the press demos that we got, there's the desired digital twin, and then there's the as-built digital twin, where it's captured, and then you can kind of diff between it to figure out where are there deltas and differences. Because to your point, reality is complex. Oh, the piping was supposed to be here. It's actually over here. What are the margins and tolerances?
That's right. And if you think about these large construction projects, there's so many trades involved in that, right? Like electrical, HVAC, et cetera, right? Like all the trades involved, plus the equipment involved.
Yeah.
And everybody needs to have an intuitive sense for how things are actually going to get laid down on the ground. And if you can bring the contractor for X to view and experience that ahead of time, it just saves time, it saves money, everybody wins, and nobody breaks their back.
I love it. Let's go away from screenshots and decks and PDFs to something that's far more immersive and closer to the final end product too, especially when very minor mistakes can result in incurring mass amounts of monetary loss.
Totally. And these spaces are all about it's an optimization problem, right?
Very
it's
much so,
multidimensional. How much can I fit? How many lines, right? Like, what's my rate of production going to be? What's my real estate cost? So all of these things can just save you money at the end of the day, which is, people like saving money.
Absolutely, and I hear the more you buy, the more you save is also the case with Nvidia.
Well, nowadays, the more you buy, the more you earn, right? We help you generate new tokens.
I love that. It very much, very true. Actually, that brings up a great point of the reverse application of digital twins, where with Omniverse, when you're training your perception models, let's say for XR, you can start getting synthetic training data from these fully synthetic worlds that are automatically labeled, free from noise, cover all sorts of long tail scenarios. Do you want to talk just briefly about that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think in some ways, XR and spatial computing is trying to simulate reality in a way, right? And it turns out the investments we've been making in Omniverse are also exactly that, trying to simulate reality. Starting from a traditional 2D screen, right? But when we bridge that over into the 3D world, right, you just get a marriage of all this good tech that makes sense, right? It just kind of makes sense. And so that combination is really powerful.
I love it. It's the anything to anything theme continues, right? You could go physical to digital, but you can also use the digital to train things that operate in the physical.
One of the fun things about working at Nvidia is that we just work on like core problems, right? Core technical problems. Like, what does it mean to simulate the world, right? Isn't that fun?
It's a very audacious goal too, by the way.
And we do it at the small scale, right?
Yeah.
We do little baby robots.
Sure.
But we also do it at Earth scale, as you saw.
Yes.
So like, it's just, these are really fun, meaty technical problems. I'm kind of a geek, right? And so I could have fun working on any of these problems.
That's amazing. You have the digital twin of your phone to the planet that we inhabit, right? It's just the scale and scope of these offerings is awe-inspiring.
Totally.
So we've talked about a bunch of industrial applications of this technology where the ROI savings are immediate, the collaboration, the synergy that you can have around having one source of truth is phenomenal. But what about the end consumer? What are some applications you're excited about that impact the average listener that might be tuning in today?
Hey, Bilal, are you a sneakers guy?
Oh, hell yeah.
Sneakerhead? All right. I got to tell you about this one partner that we're working with. Media Monks work with Adidas to get this. You want your nice new kicks. You can Gen AI your own design for that shoe.
Ooh.
Right?
Yeah.
My daughter, she might like funny cats.
Totally.
Right? Somebody else might like Starry Night. Whatever you want to Gen AI onto that, and then you can view it in AR, with your phone, right, or a headset. Isn't that a great marriage of AI and AR tech, right? And for something that you will personalize, you will wear, you will enjoy yourself, right? Every day potentially.
I love that. It's like you've got the digital twin of the sneaker, and now you can kind of put your own personality on top of it using the very same technologies that we talked about and end up getting an as-built version of the thing that you just spec'd out with your imagination.
Exactly. And hey, if you didn't like that pair, well, you got a chance to visualize it ahead of time, but then you can Gen AI a new pair, right? Super fun. I have another example for you. This one is from some of our friends at HomeEAI, HOMEE.ai. And they have a really interesting application. I personally find it super useful, which is they're helping you redecorate your room, your home, your room, your office. And how they do it is application, you take it, phone-based app, you scan the world, you scan your living room or whatever room you choose. It builds a 3D map of that room. And then they use Gen AI to subtract out the existing furniture.
Cool.
And then they use some more Gen AI to figure out, to suggest to you what could be new types of furniture that you might want to put in there.
Wow.
And they let you view it in AR. And furthermore, they connected back with all of their partners and the Shopify catalogs
Wow.
that they already connect to. Isn't that cool? Like, I've always thought, my room is boring, but I have no skills to do something more interesting with it, right? But then this combines the, again, really good elements of AI and AR to really just customize your space, customize your physical space.
Such an exciting application, right? Because I was thinking about the normal way to do this, the number of 2D tabs I'd be opening, trying to take some kludgy photos of my space, figure out will this fit or not, looking at some measurement using like the Measure app. And y'all have simplified it with your partners. You capture reality, you edit reality, you get contextual suggestions again.
Contextual, and the lighting.
Oh, and the lighting
Right?
estimation and real high quality rendering, so it feels anchored in that space.
Yeah.
It's like the closest thing to, it's like your own custom sort of like IKEA catalog situation
Totally,
going on.
but even better.
But you can
because
change
it's-
it on demand.
You can change it, and it's your space, right?
It's true.
Even if you go to the showrooms, the furniture showrooms, it's not going to be your space.
Totally.
Here, it can be your space.
I love that. And connecting into Shopify too, I think it'll be very exciting to see, like, to be able to ask these helpful AI assistants, hey, what do you think fits well in this space? And imagining a future where it's sort of your interior designer and like shopping
It's your
assistant.
buddy, yeah.
Totally.
And even if you are an interior designer, maybe this is a tool that can help you serve more clients.
Absolutely.
More effectively,
Yeah.
right? And you might not be connected with all the catalogs, but this is a way for you to be suggestions to flow to you in terms of new products that you might not be familiar with or extended catalogs that you might not be familiar with.
Love that. All right, so for folks listening, whether they're developers, businesses, or creators, what are exciting areas where you and Nvidia welcome partnerships to realize our collective XR dreams?
Yeah. Well, I was super thrilled with our Vision Pro announcement, a partnership there, working together with.
I heard Kramer loved it too, right?
Oh yeah, you know, that was good. That was pretty good. We had, stay tuned, there's some other VIPs that also checked it out.
Very cool.
And as you know, including yourself, so
thank you.
that was a lot of fun. And you know, we're excited to bring that capability to the marketplace. Stay tuned, later this year, we'll have that capability in the marketplace. And you know, just the thought, right? Just the thought, the fact that we're going to drop 50 teraflops of computing in a very small form factor, right? And eventually that will be 50 teraflops or more in 50 grams,
Oh, wow.
right?
Yeah.
And isn't that just so sweet that you could just envision what you would start to build with that? And so that's what I would encourage folks listening, that we're ready to start talking to you about what you would want to build with that capability, because let's go build that future together.
I love that. There's a spatial canvas. Y'all got the pipes to deliver the content, of course, with absurdly high precision and fidelity. And really, partners, creators, businesses need to bring their assets to the party, perhaps even using y'all's tools to create some of these assets.
Yeah.
The world is your canvas. Come paint it with whatever you choose.
Literally, yeah, that totally. And I think that we are happy to help is what it comes down to. So whatever industry you're in as a developer, we are happy to help. And just let us know.
Love that. As we wrap up here, we've talked about a bunch of amazing technologies that are converging the physical and digital. As you look to the future, what are you excited about?
Well, I mentioned a few of them. Spatial generative, right? I think that's got, we're just scratching the surface. You know, you can feel like you can kind of see a path, but we're just scratching the surface. And when we get that right, if I could ask to be trained on anything in front of me with the world expert generated in front of me, or just simple stuff like, hey, HVAC repair technician learning from the journeyman, learning from the master, right? Master virtually reincarnated in front of me, fixing that particular unit. I think we're almost there. Of course, if you're not into furnace problems, that's okay. Learn the latest and greatest crossover from Steph Curry. That's fine, right? You learn whatever you want to learn in your new kicks, by the way, right?
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So I think we've got the ingredients. It's so exciting to be in this space at this time, and I do mean in this space.
Oh, I love it. And space is certainly a theme of a lot what we talked about. All right, so we've been sitting with David Chu, VP of XR and Spatial Computing at Nvidia. The sheer breadth and depth of the work you and your teams are doing is awe-inspiring. You're blurring the lines between the physical and digital and helping developers and creators do the same. Thank you for your time, but before we go, what's the best place for the people online to follow you and your work?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn. You can follow me on LinkedIn. You can also follow the amazing set of GTC sessions on XR and spatial computing that are here this year today. And then also, again, remember that many things in XR are related to many other things that we do at NVIDIA. So whether it's the broad suite of generative AI tech that we have on offer, there's just so many things that you can check out on GDC on demand that I think your viewers will be thrilled with.
You heard it here first. We got all the pieces. You can construct your own spatial computing Voltron. Hope you enjoyed this talk, and I'll see y'all next time. Cheers.